This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. More on them later.
Take this object, but beware, it carries a terrible curse.
Ooh, that's bad.
But it comes with a free Frogut.
That's good.
The Frogut is also cursed.
That's bad.
But you get your choice of topping.
That's good.
The toppings contain potassium benzoate. That's bad.
Can I go now?
So apparently there's a new season of Total Drama coming out in 2023. Almost 10 years since the last proper season, it's kind of crazy to think about. Through its ups and downs, I've really liked this show, so I'm looking forward to what's to come. Honestly, I have no idea what to expect of this new season going in, and it's not like the whole season leaked early and that I already saw it and talked about my overall thoughts on my friend's channel, youtube.com/@deliwacky. No, that would be impossible because it didn't happen.
Why are you winking on our baby, you creep? God, that's weird. I don't want to ever see that happen again.
Anyways, if this season that I've totally never seen before is anything like previous seasons, then we have a lot to look forward to. Romantic flames will be kindled, lasting friendships will be formed, bitter rivalries will spark, inevitable betrayals will be enacted, and through it all, one contestant will be crowned the champion. Oh, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the staple of Total Drama, the curse placed upon campers that will be awkwardly shoved in that will completely halt progress and, in some cases, lay waste to a character's multifaceted personality and flanderize them to Kingdom Come. Oh. What's that? You don't know what I'm talking about? Come on, the curse! It's a cornerstone of almost every season of the show. It takes effect for one or multiple episodes of the season. It leads up to some very unfair eliminations. You know, the curses! Well, you may not have noticed them, but I sure as heck did, and they were certainly an interesting addition. That's the positive way of saying they weren't very good. That's not entirely fair. Not every single curse that this show had was of equal weight on the scale of sin, but at the very least they were an annoying obstacle that was awkwardly shoved into the show to break the pace whenever it was on screen, and at worst...
Kevin, your dog just died.
Now, I'm no stranger to talking about cursed objects on this channel. I literally talked about a piece of golden poop for almost 40 minutes. So today, I thought I'd go through every single instance of a curse on this show, and sort of give you my opinion on how I view each, ranking them based on many factors, including how they affected the metagame of the show, and the impact they had on each of the contestants. You know what, I was gonna say for better or for worse, but I think we all know the latter is the only one that's applicable. So join me now, as we discuss this very original video topic that nobody has talked about before, even if just talking about the general idea of a curse having a stake in the overall gameplay of the show, or the in-universe consequences it has on the characters and their physical and mental psyche, and whatever theories that might emerge because of it. I promise you that this video is totally
100% undeniably unique and hasn't been attempted in any way, shape, or form on this platform at all. How did I get here?
Starting with the very first season, we have the OG curse this time around, that being the Tiki Idol. For context, in episode 8, the contestants are tasked with canoeing to a mysterious and spooky Boney Island, where they then have to trek through the island and build a bonfire before racing back to Camp Wawanakwa. Before the campers head out, however, Chris has one final warning for them.
Legend has it, if you take anything off the island, you'll be cursed forever.
Yeah! A cursed island! Whoa!
Everyone takes note of this message except Beth, who showed up to the challenge late. So of course, when both teams make it to the island and start the next step of the challenge, it's Beth who happens across the aforementioned Tiki Idol, and not heeding the warning, she takes it for herself. From here, things start to go poorly for Beth. Or should I say, her team. From the moment she finds the idol to her elimination, her team is completely down on their luck. They were close to winning the canoe challenge until Izzy opened her big mouth and gave the other team the idea that won them the challenge. Then, in the paintball challenge, there was too much team infighting for their team to make any progress, making them lose that challenge too. And lastly, in the cooking challenge, the infighting continues, and a lack of proper leadership leads them to lose that challenge as well, which finally leads to Beth's elimination and the end of the supposed Tiki Curse. Although later we find out that apparently she never actually got rid of the Tiki idol after her elimination, so... whoops. But do you notice a bit of a problem here with this Tiki Curse? It's not really giving a lot of bad luck to Beth. If anything, I'd say that it's actually giving her a bit of good luck, in a way. Follow me on this one. Aside from the episode where she was eliminated, the other 2 episodes where her team lost since the Tiki idol was found, both of her alliance members were in the bottom 2, with Lindsay in the canoe race episode and Heather in the paintball deer hunter episode. With the former, we never actually find out who was eliminated in that episode, since Izzy is forced to exit the game to escape the RCMP, so for all we know, it could have been Lindsay who was taken out of the game at that point. And with the latter, I actually have no reasonable way to explain this. It kind of seems like everyone is dead set on getting Heather out at that point, only to last minute be like, nah, you know what, actually fuck Cody, all my homies hate Cody. Now, if he was taken out due to his injuries sustained, that'd be one thing, but we actually see the people in the confessionals voting for Cody, including Owen, who says that Cody isn't useful in challenges anymore, which I find very funny, given that in the very next episode he plays a major factor in why his team loses the challenge, but whatever, I guess. But was this all really the idol's doing? I mean, everything from Beth finding the idol to her being eliminated seems to be tied to the bad luck that the idol's curse brings it, but I really don't think things would have been all that different if Beth didn't find the idol. Like, you mean to tell me that the idol is the reason that Izzy blabbed to the killer bass? No, it's because she's insane and she was telling crazy stories all day. Which means that the RCMP was always going to come for her eventually, and with Cody's elimination... Look, if there's one thing I learned about this show, it's that when you're looking at the episodes from a critical standpoint, it's important to separate the first 95% of the episode and the actual elimination and the ceremony, since they're like 2 separate beasts. Everything else can be explained by non-idol related shenanigans too. Like Izzy's arrest, it was eventual that the alliance was gonna break up due to Heather's outlandish demands. It just so happens that Beth's split from them happened when she found the idol. And it's not like it was because of the idol that Beth was fed up. She was gonna get the chips no matter what. And also, she's not an idiot. She understands when she's being used and abused. And that forced her to say the N-word to Heather.
We decided to give you one last chance. If you take it back, you can rejoin our alliance. Take back what? The N-word. I don't want to take it back.
What the fuck?
And with the cooking challenge, everyone was already tired of Heather's bossiness, so a power play wasn't out of the question. But she's also the closest thing the team has to a leader. So as soon as she's out of the picture, for whatever reason, I don't know their thought process on this at all, they decide to let Owen guard the food. It's like they didn't even watch the same show that I did. Either way, I wouldn't classify any of this as the doing of the Tiki Idol's curse. The only thing I'd say it did effectively do was lead to Beth's early elimination, and even then, that wasn't because of the curse, and more so the idea of the curse. As we're about to see, it could have been much, much worse. But first, if you ask me, I think the thing that's really cursed on this show is the food. Like, how do you expect them to compete in these physically straining challenges while getting their essential nutrients from... Can that even be classified as edible? If it were me on that show, I would have stuck my laptop in and used it to place an order from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a service that delivers fresh ingredients and fun, unique recipes right to your doorstep. I personally love cooking myself, so it's always a great surprise to see what unique recipes HelloFresh has in its ever-changing menu. And despite my love for cooking, sometimes it can be a real drag to get out to the grocery store and figure out what I need and how much. With HelloFresh, you don't have to worry about any of that, as all the ingredients you'll need will be delivered right to you, and for an affordable price too. Even if you're not a big fan of cooking or you might find it challenging, HelloFresh provides you with easy-to-follow recipes that give you helpful step-by-step instructions that anyone can follow. I personally used HelloFresh in the past, and they've done wonders to spruce up my cooking styles. If you're interested in trying out HelloFresh, you can click the link in the description below and enter this code for a special discount on your first order. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video, and now, let's get back to it.
Welcome to Total!
Do you think we'll ever see her again?
I'm sure we will, honey. I'm sure we will.
Now, I love World Tour, I think it's one of the best seasons of the show, but I also kind of hate it for some of the choices that it makes. The idea of a 3-team structure is really cool, and it's something that no other season has done. But it's such a waste of a concept when you pick off the entire team one after another. To be fair, most of the characters on Team Victory got some much needed development in the previous season. That's not a character, that's a Canadian! And their downfall was partially to show off the manipulative powers of the season's newest antagonist, Alejandro. Keyword here being partially, because on the other side of the spectrum, we have DJ and the curse of the mummified dog.
Well, it's not right to make my dead pet an exhibit. That's like digging up Lassie and putting her on display in the Louvre.
Lassie is on display in the Louvre.
I know, I was deliberately describing a similar situation.
DJ was already a character that had it just really rough coming into this season, and I mean that in more ways than one. He was definitely one of my favorite characters in the original season. He looked like this big, tough dude from the outset, but we learned throughout the season just how much of a sensitive soul he really is. Throughout the first season, he overcomes many of his fears, proves himself to be a useful asset on multiple occasions, and befriends basically everybody. Even Gwen, who listed off hating basically everyone in the finale.
I was lucky enough to meet 5 people who are actually sane.
Gwen doesn't like anybody sometimes, depending on the weather. I think that's probably what it is, so that's a good compliment. Things start to go downhill for him in action. And fast. By episode 3, he's basically forced into an illegal alliance with Chef, which all but guaranteed his downfall in the show. Eventually, his guilt catches up with him, culminating in a dream about shaming his mom, which results in him voluntarily leaving the show. Mind you, that in the previous season, he was never voted out either. They just revealed that he was eliminated for doing the worst at a challenge. And if that wasn't enough, we learn in the Celebrity Manhunt special that him and his mama started a cooking show, only for the food to be so deliciously unhealthy that they were basically sued into homelessness, with the clothes taken off their backs, living in their tour bus. God damn, I feel so bad for the guy. Have a heart. Hug a DJ. He obtained yet another shot at victory when he made it onto World Tour. And how did that work out for him? In the very first episode of the season, he pets a mummified dog and it crumbles. That minor action set forth a chain of events that can only be described as, when it comes to character development, cataclysmic. DJ's entire character arc after this fateful moment is nothing but him hurting animals and whining and crying about wanting to go home to see his mama. He was definitely a mama's boy before, but never to this caliber. He's gotta be careful or else some people might get the wrong idea. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too deep into it. It's really disappointing to see this well-beloved character boiled down to his worst traits, and all because of this dumb curse. And what sucks is that on this adventure through his downfall, he basically drags his whole team down with him. And this is especially true for Harold, Lindsay, and even Bridget, albeit I'd say that last one was more so due to Alejandro's interference, but he definitely did not help by crying so much in the Yukon that his eyes froze shut. He threw the Japan challenge in hopes that he would be voted off, and he was very close to getting his wish, until Harold exited the game on his own terms. And when it was just him and Lindsay in France, he refused to help her with the challenge, instead chasing this impossible dream of undoing his curse, which led to his team's failure during the challenge and Lindsay's departure from the game. You want to know what the worst part is? Something that's explored just before his elimination is that the curse itself It's all in his head. In the Newfoundland episode, when DJ is the only contestant left on his team, the whole episode he's doing whatever he can to get himself out, until he comes across the last portion of the challenge where he has to kiss a fish, and the fish has an Egyptian symbol on it. And Alejandro convinces him that maybe it will break the curse, so he goes through with it and wins the challenge. In the very next episode, we see a totally new and rejuvenated DJ, who has his confidence and mojo back. He's all set to win the challenge until Alejandro reveals that the fish that DJ kissed was actually a fake fish that he fabricated, meaning that DJ is still technically cursed. The minute this idea is formed in his head, it's already too late. He instantly starts messing up again and ultimately loses the challenge, causing him to be eliminated from the game. I guess that it is better that it wasn't the actual curse and it was in DJ's head all along, at least for the canon of the show. But to see the character just completely fall apart due to this whole ordeal, and to drag down his whole team with him, I don't know, something about that just really rubs me the wrong way. The saddest part is that with his departure in the 2 previous seasons, both were portrayed as bittersweet moments.
No hard feelings, dude. You will be missed.
Aww, group hug! Dude, you can't leave.
Yeah, can't we just vote Chef off instead?
Sorry, but I gotta make it right for Mama.
In World Tour, there's absolutely none of that. He's all alone, forced to jump from the grounded plane, with no one to wish him off or see his farewell. At least with Beth, when she got out, she was able to redeem herself in action. Other than a bit part in Revenge of the Island, this is basically the end of DJ's story. It's just so lonely. And for a character like DJ, one of the friendliest guys on the show, I don't know, it's just kind of upsetting. I guess that's how I describe this whole mummified dog curse. Just an upsetting chapter of this otherwise extremely good season. It wasn't all bad, the stuff not focused on Team Victory was very entertaining, and everything after the whole mummified dog curse and also the Gwunkin stuff, let's just forget that ever happened. It was all really good. And hey, like I said earlier, that curse seemed to be all in DJ's head and not actually real. I was debating back and forth if the curse was actually real in my head, thinking like, there's no way there's seagulls in Egypt and the Yukon. That must be the curse's doing trying to fuck over DJ. But then I actually Googled it, and it turns out that a variety of gulls are actually native to both areas. So I actually came out of this learning a little something. I think this just goes to further prove how messy curses can be towards the writing of a show like this. You might think I'm over-exaggerating, but just to prove my point even more, you want to know something that I just noticed upon my rewatch of this season? For as long as they're around, Team Victory only wins one challenge, that being the Amazon Challenge. And you want to know the only reason why they didn't lose said challenge?
Team Amazon in the Amazon? That's gotta be a lucky sign.
Whenever a team predicts good luck, they always lose!
But I didn't... No, I just meant...
Gosh, I hope none of the Amazons said this might be lucky for them. That'd be disastrous.
I'd say it's a lucky break for them, but even I wouldn't stoop that low. Either way, I'm sure this is what most of you clicked on this video for anyways, and I can safely confirm that this is the worst that these dumb curses can get. Right? See, I know I'm right now because if I were wrong, there'd be a hard cut to the next. Okay, so like, remember how for the past whatever we just talked about, I was talking about how while the curses could be real, it's more likely that it was the idea of the curse that was actually causing all those bad things to happen to Beth and DJ and their respective teams. Okay, so I want you to take all of that, the past however many minutes of that we just talked about, and I want you to just throw it all away. Yeah, just get rid of it. Burn it if you must, because I sincerely have no logical reasoning behind what's going on with All-Star's Blue Harvest Moon. Now, before you say anything about how this isn't a curse, because it's more like a natural phenomenon, it is technically referred to as a curse at one point.
Courtney and Gwen, the moon curse is over! Hurry!
Ah, so who's the idiot now? it's still me because I had to watch this episode. So for context, in this episode, the teams are tasked with racing from one end of the island to the other. However, as with almost every other challenge, it's easier said than done.
Tonight's full moon is an extremely rare blue harvest moon, and let's just say it has an unusual effect on the island's animals.
So apparently, this blue harvest moon changes the attitudes of all the animals on the island to their opposite. So, for example, things like little birds and rabbits and beavers and squirrels and deers and the like are all extremely aggressive and bloodthirsty, whereas animals like bears and alligators are weak and timid.
It makes no damn sense. Compels me, though.
Okay, I know this is a cartoon, but I'm gonna need you to back up for a sec and give me a little bit more context, because, huh? So Chris says that the Blue Harvest Moon affects, quote, this island's creatures. But how exactly is that supposed to work? They literally never give any more context after that, and we're just supposed to be like, lol, the bear is getting mauled by a squirrel. But no, I want to know how this happened. People like to say that Pocketoo Island is more cartoonishly dumb than All Stars, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but at least they had the foresight to explain why everything is so weird on the new island. With this, I mean, why is this moon only affecting the island's creatures? What specifically is making only them act like this? And what even is defined as this island's creatures? Because we can clearly see both airborne and aquatic animals become affected by this. So what exactly are the boundaries of this island's creatures? And if Chris is lying about only this island's animals being affected, isn't that considerably worse? Like, there's a night about once a year where every animal just flips their composure? Can you imagine the utter chaos that would ensue? Honey, come quick! The chipmunks are revolting! Sorry, dear, but the new episode of Total Drama is on, and they have Duncan wearing a bacon hat. Oh, damn, really? I gotta see that shit. You might think I'm overreacting to this, but like, am I really? Okay, so like, let's say for argument's sake that there's a legitimate reason why the Blue Harvest Moon was only affecting the island's animals and no other animals on Earth. Even if that was the case, that still doesn't explain what happened to Mike.
I think Mike might be evil.
Mike, are you evil?
No.
Seems legit.
So apparently, when Chris said that it affects, quote, this island's creatures, he actually meant this island's creatures and also apparently anyone with dissociative identity disorder. Because the lunar waves of the moon, I guess you'd call it, take an instant effect on Mike, making his evil persona Mal take over while under the moon's light. I didn't think it bared repeating, but... Huh? So you want to say it affects this island's creatures? Fine, whatever. For this one scenario, I could stretch my suspension of disbelief. But come on, it's not cheese in a pizza commercial. It can only be stretched so far. Mike isn't a creature of the island, so why is he being affected by the Blue Harvest Moon? And why is the effect of the moon on Mike just Mal taking over? Yeah, it's supposed to make you act the opposite of how you normally would, but that doesn't just mean that a whole new personality can just take over. Unless, of course, the rules are different for people with DID. But if that's the case, given that Mike isn't an island creature, I'd have to assume that anyone with DID who basks in this moon's light would have their, quote, opposite persona take over, which, again, would lead to utter chaos. So basically, what we have here is an option that makes absolutely no sense, or an option that makes more sense, but then somehow makes even less sense when you think about it for like a second. You know what? Magnets. Let's just say that it's magnets causing this.
Magnets. Okay, what? Like making magnets, collecting magnets,
playing with magnets?
Just magnets.
Honestly, and this is just me pulling some shit out of my ass at this point, you can make the argument that because it's only Mike and the animals that are being affected by this, the reasoning is because of some long-lasting consequences from radiation exposure from the previous season. I mean, it's not a perfect reason. You could poke holes in the theory for days. But at least it's something. I don't even want to be talking about this anymore. I didn't want to go on this long tangent about All-Stars anyway, and yet somehow I managed. Easily one of the worst uses of this trope so far, at least with the mummified dog. There was nothing that made me think, oh, that's not possible. But this, with the damn Blue Moon Harvest, no, the Blue Harvest Moon, nah, I think I'm good, thanks. Luckily, this is the last instance of a curse in the show to date, so that means my work is done. There's a curse in the spin-off season, isn't there? Despite my less than ecstatic tone that I just used, I'm actually looking forward to talking about this. Ridonculous Race is probably my favorite season of the show, but even they succumb to the trope of a curse. But honestly, I think it's implemented much better here than anything we've seen before in the show. In the second part of the first episode, we learn that José, one half of this season's antagonist team, the Ice Dancers, carries around a rabbit's foot for good luck, and has never let it out of her sight. She's a very superstitious girl, you could say. A few episodes later, when traveling from Transylvania to Hawaii, José loses it in transit and begins to freak out. She's able to regain her composure for the challenge, but she happens across a lava rock that's shaped like a trophy, and decides to take it as her new lucky charm, despite being warned by a native. Damn man, can't take a rock? Can't throw a pineapple in a volcano? What's the point of even going to Hawaii in the first place? After that, Jacques and José keep running into more and more bad luck, losing out on second place in the Hawaii challenge and not even making it in the top 3 for the next 3 challenges. It's not until Finland where the gods inform them of the bad luck associated with the lava rock, and that the only way to break the curse is to bring the rock back to Hawaii. So, in a last-minute effort to free themselves of the curse, the Ice Dancers head to Hawaii in the next episode, while everyone else heads off to Zimbabwe, putting them at a massive disadvantage. After performing a ceremony and thinking that they receive a sign, they head off to Zimbabwe, where they hurry their way through the challenge, but are just barely beaten, which means that they're eliminated. Except they're not, because it's a non-elimination round. Wait a second. To be able to fly from Finland to Hawaii to Zimbabwe and just barely lose the challenge? I actually don't think that's possible unless Dwayne was looking for his son for days, or the Ice Dancers are just that good. But that's besides the point, because with their saving from elimination, the curse has been lifted off the Ice Dancers. So with all that said and done, why do I think that this implementation is better than all the previous versions? Well, actually, there's a few reasons. Because of how Ridonculous Race is structured, there's really no teams, and instead it's groups of 2 competing against one another, a la Amazing Race. So any damage done by the curse only affects Jacques and José. There's no team that takes the brunt force of the consequences, or for them to drag down with them. This also excuses the problem of Jacques being the one that takes the brunt force of most of the curse, despite José being the one who actually took the lava rock. Unlike Beth and the Tiki Idol, any screw-ups done by Jacques directly affects how José will fare in the game. The curse also isn't their downfall in the show, as they're able to get rid of it before they can be eliminated. And although coming in 4th may not seem like such a big deal in the grand scheme of things, the Ice Dancers have always been very hard on themselves and constantly strive to be in 1st place, since to them, even 2nd place in a challenge is just the first loser.
So, as a Canadian ice dancing team, you probably hear this a lot. 3rd place!
So yeah, 4th place is a really bad thing that they have to deal with while they're cursed, at least to them. And most importantly, everything that happens to them can be explained without the need of a curse. There's nothing that's too unbelievable where I'm thinking, yep, there's definitely a curse. Since basically everything that happened can be boiled down to human error. And yet it does a really good job of straddling the line as to whether or not there really is a curse. Like, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. They did a really good job visualizing this idea of a curse that may or may not be real, and I think that's in part due to the fact that it's the Ice Dancers who are the ones who succumb to the effects, since they constantly strive for perfection, and even the slightest hiccup isn't tolerated. And, as an added bonus, this is actually based on a real curse called Pele's Curse, which brings bad luck to anyone who takes anything native to Hawaii off of the islands. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it's still a nice touch. I think it's very telling that it took them almost 10 years to perfect a trope that they introduced to the show back in the first season. And even though I think they pulled it off pretty well here, I do wish that they retire the idea going forward. I know it seems like I've been a little harsh and nitpicky on how this show handles the idea of curses, and I probably have for some of it, but there's a reason that I'm harsher here than I would be with any other show. Total Drama is a satire of real-world reality shows, or at least that's what it started as when it was first aired. It is a cartoon, so it's not bound by the laws of reality, but the less grounded that you get, the more muddled the original idea of the show becomes. That's not to say that you're only bound by the laws of reality. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a few fantastical elements sprinkled here and there, and they're able to split the difference by having the characters act as more exaggerated versions of people they're supposed to represent without completely neutering their personalities. At least for the most part. There's nothing inherently wrong with the idea of a curse in a show like Total Drama. I'm pretty sure Survivor played with this idea at one point, but the implementation of one is a very tricky thing to do while straddling this idea of satire based in a reality of sorts. For the most part, I think they did a pretty decent job if we don't include whatever the fuck was going on in All Stars. But the other factor is that because this is a satire of a reality show, not every character will make it to the end, and it kinda sucks to see a character taken out of the game not due to a power play made by their team or a skill issue or something, but to something as basic as a curse. I don't know, maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but there is some hope. This upcoming season seems to want to be a reboot of sorts, going back to a bit more of a grounded approach, at least, you know, from what I can tell. I totally haven't seen it before. Hopefully this means they can put this tired trope to rest. Otherwise, it really will be the curse of Total Drama.
He said it! He said it!
Oh, there also might be like a cursed pumpkin or something in Dramarama, but I didn't watch that show. Sorry.